Hey guys, so we're going to do episode 2 of the review of the vegan debate that was on the Crucible between Garland Farms channel and Jeffrey Phillips channel. We're about 18 minutes into the review of this debate. So this is episode 2. We're going to do a little bit more, check out what was said, do some commentary. There's a possibility that Jeffrey Phillips will come onto my channel, give him an opportunity maybe to discuss the topic of soy. There was claims, and we're gonna hear that in the second episode. Still talking about soy, how the statistics are, how they come up with the percentages, the reality behind how soybeans are used. JD did a powerful response to these statistics. I am currently looking in to what Garland Farms said about the soybean. Pretty much come to my conclusion on that, but I will keep it to myself. I will do some further research. Also going to ask JD to bombard me with any of the information that allowed him to make the statement. I'm going to review basically the first aspect of this debate was when Ali and Jeffrey presented statistics about primarily corn and soybean, and I believe it was soybean first. JD responded with the answer that, well, it appears like 80% or an overwhelming amount of soybean is wasted on the animals, when the argument goes from the vegan side that, if we weren't feeding this to the livestock, to the animals, it's not only livestock, but to the animal agriculture, we wouldn't have to waste that, and then we could feed more of the population with that. Again, a criticism, this idea that it's about land mass, it's only about calories, completely leaves out the most important thing, that food is not about calories only, it is about nutrients. So the idea that we would remove all of animal agriculture and rely on these subsidized grains and crops. Simple analysis of looking what kind of nutrients are in soy, wheat, and corn, and you'll come to the conclusion that there is either very poor bioavailability, poor absorption, poor conversion of nutrients, and so it just means that we can't just be saying like, well, you know what, this is bad, the animal food, take it away. Now we can all eat corn, soy, and wheat, and there'll be so much more room because we're not feeding it to the cows. Everyone will be happy and will live in a vegan utopia. But that's not the case, because we're missing nutrients. And if we would take this route globally, which is what the vegans want to do, if we did take this route globally, we would be dependent on fortified foods as well as supplements. And again, some deeper research into that. These nutrients, so-called nutrients, in a lot of these supplements, vitamins, fortified food, are in forms that are not in the same form as animal food. That's easily bioavailable, easily digested. And we can go through, plant D2 compared to animal D3, beta carotene compared to retinol, vitamin K1 compared to vitamin K2, MK7, and MK4 within MK2, heme iron availability to the body to use, and non-heme iron, things like iodine and various minerals that are lacking. The ALA plant fat, the essential omega-3 sources in plants are converted into long-chain metabolites of EPA and DHA, anywhere from 1.8% to 3.6%. A horrible conversion rates. So there's a lot of issues, and not to mention, it's a dangerous spot to put all our eggs in one basket, meaning to put all of our food supply into plant agriculture. Now, to my knowledge, further on in the debate, Ali and Jeffrey kind of concede that, yeah, probably not a good idea to get rid of all of the livestock, which is an impressive statement for somebody who is defending veganism. Um, little nerve-wracking for them, I would say, is if Vegan Gains, Joey Carbs, any of the vegan community gets hold of a few things that they said that goes against the fundamental orthodoxy of vegan doctrine, they could get ostracized. Um, you know, the idea of, well, we won't eat the animals, but we will use some of the ruminant animals to replace the soil. Hardcore vegans do not agree with that at all. Like Earthling that pushes synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. Let's get started, and away we go. So again, JD just made the first analogy saying that it's unfair, the statistics that they use. He went as far as to say it's intellectually dishonest. Uh, did they know about this? Did they just look into these things superficially, took for granted what the vegan community influencers were saying and said, yeah, of course the data must be right? I don't know. I don't know if they were trying to be deceptive or not. My analysis of the situation at this point, when this whole discussion was going back and forth, I think that they were not aware of that. Um, I have to give it to Ali that conceded to JD that, okay, I'll concede that 90% of the soybean is used for seed oil. So what JD was trying to say, because we just missed it, but it's going to be repeated four more times, in a form of a question that never gets answered, to the point where Andrew from the Crucible has to step in after Jeffrey was kind of getting annoyed, as if like, okay, we heard it like 5 times, your analogy about the pistachio and the pistachio shell. What JD said and will say, and it was said very clearly, was that if you take a pistachio, okay, a whole pistachio, you take the shell off, put it aside, and you take the actual pistachio meat content inside. I'll call it the nut, okay, inside of the shell. If you measure the percentage of the whole pistachio, you'll see that, let's say, for example, 60% is the shell, 40% is in the actual nut, or the actual seed, whatever you want to call it. And the humans are eating the insides. They're eating the actual nut that's inside the pistachio shell. They're eating 100% of that, but the other shell is being given to the animals, okay, crushed up and in the feed. So since the pistachio is 60% shell and 40% nut, then you can make the statement statistically that 60% of all pistachio goes to animals. That's not true. 100% of the pistachio goes to humans, the edible part, and 100% of the shells go to the animals. So you should be saying that clearly 100% goes primarily to humans for consuming, and 100% of the shell goes to the animals for feed. So instead of saying 60% of all pistachio is used to feed animals, that was a beautiful analogy to point out, the truth about soy. Let's get started.
Specifically for livestock.
Give me 1 second. I do not want to do like I previously did by not sharing the audio. My first episode yesterday, I literally had to start it over, and it wasn't as good the second time. At one point, I was kind of wondering, like, did I say this already in the second redo of this episode, or did I say it in the first?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, understood.
40 seconds if necessary.
Sure. Stop. Sorry about that, guys. Take my sweet time. Share audio, share. That is good. Are we ever going to get to this share?
It's actually to be processed so that products can be extracted from it and consumed specifically and solely by human beings. And with that, I'll yield.
Ooh, that was right at the 10-second marker. Good job. Don't always get right to the edge of the line like that. So before we get into allowing you guys to go at it on this, there's a couple of things I need you to know. I'll only interject if I need to keep the conversation on track, or if there's too much interruption, something like this, I'll bring it back where it needs to go. Expect both parties to adhere to the moderator. It's important that you do so, or else we can't even have a productive conversation. Next, to all of those people out in chat land right now, make sure that you do all the algorithm stuff for everybody who's just joining. There'll be several hundred people who'll be joining as this broadcast goes. But if you put those thumbs up, that really helps kind of bump it up in the algorithm. Also consider buying those great Crucible memberships so that you can throw shit at people from the chat, because it's just a lot of fun to do. And with that, we're going to open up the floor. Go ahead, guys. Whichever one of you wants to start. It's an open floor.
Go ahead, Allie.
So I wanted to dive into the what you mentioned about the byproduct use. If I understand correctly, the byproduct use from soy. Is that what you were referring to?
Yes, whenever, again, 90% of the soybeans, 90% of the world's soybeans are processed to extract the oil. That oil, that soybean oil, represents 61% of the world's seed oil. So that is 100% consumed by human beings. What's left over is called soybean cake and soybean meal, and there's different grades of it depending on the processing. If it's only been crushed, it can further be processed into part of it can be separated for human consumption. If it's been processed by soaking it in hexane, which is basically gasoline, then that byproduct will go to livestock.
So that was, you said it was, I'm sorry, you said 90% of global soy use was for soybean oil?
90%. It can vary. It depends on what year you look. Sometimes it's 85, sometimes it's 90%, sometimes it's over 90%. Let me finish, please. Over 90% of the, I'm saying every year about 90% of the world's soybeans are processed to extract the oil. That's why they have in investing in commodities, the soybean crush spread. That is the reason that investing strategy exists, is because overwhelmingly most of the soybeans are processed to extract the oil for human consumption.
Now, where are you getting that figure of the 90% use for oil? The figure I sent to you, we sent to you in our sources. What I'm looking at, so this is from Our World in Data. So this is global use of world soy, and there's a table in that link that I sent you.
Yes, you see how do you see how it says soy? It doesn't say soybeans, does it?
Yeah.
It says,
yeah, that's like just a subtle word difference. If you're asking about soybean, then you're strictly looking at what they can do with the inside, right? But there's difference between soy and soybean. I would have never caught that. Good catch, JD.
Soy. So the soybean oil is considered soy, and the industrial waste that they're feeding livestock is also considered soy. But they didn't say that soybeans are being fed to animals. So only 7% of the world's soybeans, as whole soybeans, are being fed to animals. The rest of the soybean that is being, the rest of the soy that's being fed to animals is industrial waste left behind after soybean extraction.
I guess I don't see how that is relevant to, like, okay, when we look at the production of soy and how much soy is used and split up for animal use and human use, right? I don't see how it matters which part of the plant is being used when we're just talking about crops produced, right? So we need.
No, we're not.
Like this is the way I'm seeing it. If it is true that you have this soy crop, the soy crop is taken and the shell, the husk, the plant itself is pushed to one side, right? Then the actual soy bean is then processed to extract the oil. Then all of the rest, okay, the leftover from the extraction process with everything else, the husk, the plants, everything is just created as soy cake or soy meal, correct? Then all of that is inedible, basically industrial leftover waste that's useless. They are taking advantage of that and feeding all of the animals with this soy cake, soy meal, whatever you want to call it, and all of the soybean itself, the soybean is being, and I'm saying all, like 90%, like they said, there's some for biofuel, there's some for direct eating and making soy milk, there's some for tofu and various things, but a large amount of the soybean is for the oil. Everything else goes primarily to the animal, including the leftover of that soybean from the extraction process. JD will go further soon enough and say, that being said, if we removed all ruminant animals from existence, how would that affect the soybean crop production? Ali and Jeffrey, I don't think they're grasping it, or they're pretending that they're not understanding. If what JD has just explained is true, if you remove the ruminant animals, what JD's trying to point out and asking the question, hoping that they comprehend and give the answer, even if it's a hypothetical, all ruminant animals are removed. How will that affect the amount of soy production and distribution? It would not have a significant effect, since 90%, an overwhelming large majority, is going for human consumption in the form of oils, which 5 years ago when I was doing the ketogenic diet, I was looking into the harmful effects through omega-6 and the oxidation of these industrialized seed oils, coming to the understanding that we're up to roughly 10% of the actual calories consumed, just these useless industrialized oils. So that was the question. If what I'm saying, 90% is extracted for oil, the other is feed for it. Therefore, we're not grabbing whole soybeans and some of that's for the oil, and then taking whole soybeans and feeding that to the animals. It's like we're using the crop, we're dividing it. Each crop primarily is going to supply meal, soy cake, soy meal, and the other large percentage is going to go for consumption of humans, and the consumption, not dietarily, but the consuming of as well biodiesel. It was very clear, and it was a strong and powerful argument to refute the idea of blaming all this soy and its harmful effects on the environment on cows.
amount of
talking about just
fertilizer.
crop produced. We're actually talking about, like I said earlier, using the pecan as an example. If I'm cracking all these pecans and
I keep on pecan, pistachio, whatever.
I'm processing them to remove the nut meat for human consumption, and I'm grinding up the shells and feeding that to animals, and the shells weigh 60%.
So Jeffrey's nodding yes. So is he agreeing?
Of the nut, and the nut meat weighs 40% of the nut, then you can claim that 60% of pecan is fed to animals. And that's a dishonest statement, because what you want people to believe is that we're feeding whole pecans to animals, including the nut meat, but we're not. We're extracting the part out of the pecan that's valuable for human consumption, and the industrial waste, in this case, the pecan shell, we're grinding that up. And
They seem to be nodding. Is that being polite? Am I jumping to conclusions here, or have they acknowledged that this is correct?
Feeding it to animals. Now, what you're doing is you're weighing the amount of soy meal, and you're saying that 80% of soy, meaning, and you're trying to represent a something that's not true. You're trying to say that 80% of all soybeans are fed to animals, and that's not true.
No, I'm not trying to argue that it's the soybeans specifically.
You agree that it's post-processing industrial waste that they're feeding to animals.
I agree that there's byproducts and there's waste as a result of the soy industry and soy processing.
Do you know how much of each soybean?
Hang on, Garland. You got to give her a chance to respond. Go ahead, Alec.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is the fact that part of this animal feed is used by byproducts of, let's say, the soy industry. I don't see it as invalidating its impact on the environment, measuring its impact on the environment for animal use. So it doesn't matter if it's the bean, the rest of the plant that's being used.
Yeah, but that's not fair, because you're taking the harmful effects of soy, right? And the dietary aspect of that is the seed oils, which is the majority of the effect. And the soy cake and soy meal, well, first of all, we shouldn't be feeding the ruminant animals soy. It's supposed to be grassland, right? So if I'm confused why she doesn't understand at this time what he was trying to say. She's like, okay, well, if all that is true, then sure, but I don't see like the point that you're trying to make. To me, I think the point is quite obvious. I mean, to be honest, soy is a horrible crop that doesn't have anything distinct that we require that we can't get through animal food. If soy would leave the existence, just like the ruminant animals should from the vegan side, we'd be better off. There'd be no more toxic seed oils being produced. The cows don't need the stupid soy cake and soy meal. They shouldn't be eating soy to start with, and neither should you. Phytoestrogens.
Looking at these numbers here, again, you say the world soy. Again, I'm not talking specifically about soybeans, but still, we're just looking at the crops, right? So the amount of fertilizer goes into growing these crops. If let's say the soy industry wasn't present, these animals would have to then eat something else, right?
Yes, the animals would have to eat grass. And if we remove all of this crap soy from the fields, why don't we just put ruminant animals on there? Why don't we let them graze? They'll poop, they'll replenish the topsoil, and then the grasslands will return. And then after they can drink rainwater and they can eat grasslands, they can replenish the soil, which will sequester CO2 as the biodiversity of the plants increase, returning also homes in a way to some animals. No need to spray the grasslands, and no need really to uproot them like monocrops. Would increase the hydrophilic properties, reversing the hydrophobic, meaning the soil is currently, because of modern tillage and other things and synthetic fertilizers, the soil is not able to hold a great amount of the water, and it runs off. So sorry, you're like kind of saying like, if we don't feed them soy, what are we going to feed them? Maybe we should feed them what they're made to eat.
Some other animal product, or maybe some other byproduct. You know, the industry's become more efficient in that we're using these byproducts to feed animals, but I just don't see. My point is,
I wouldn't say it's efficient. I would say that they were making industrial lubricants at the start of the 20th century with these seeds, cottonseed primarily. Then they came up with a lot of cottonseed oil, which they had to pay to get rid of. Some of them, they managed to make money with that waste with industrial lubricant. They decided, why don't we further process it and sell it as a healthy fat that is cleaner than animal fats. That's how it started. And what they're doing now is they're selling to make a profit, again, the industrial leftover waste of soy to make oil so that they can make money on the cows. So it's lucrative in respect that they can make money with the garbage. So they make a profit on garbage as well. That's why we're still in a grain-fed industry, because that way they make money by feeding us toxic oils and feeding our food unnutritious industrial waste.
Now, I'm not arguing about the beans specifically being eaten by the animals. I'm arguing that, yeah, that you can't, like I said, invalidate the impact on the environment for animal use by them eating.
Right. So here's the thing: projecting, conjecture, using our imaginations of how the future should be. We have to not have double standards here. Vegans are making a huge claim. We should completely change the food system, eliminate all animal agriculture, and just feed off of plants. Then after I come up with a very reasonable argument and saying, yeah, I know, but we know the natural ecological cycle. We know that if we allow them to graze on grassland, this is wonderful for the environment, for the soil, for the animals, and it doesn't cost us anything. We don't have to grow crops, and if you know what I mean. Anyways, it seems pretty simple. So then the vegan will say like, oh well, yeah, but if you talk about regenerative farming, they'll say, yeah, I know, but hardly anyone's doing it. Okay. So maybe we should act, all bang together and start reversing it, because turn everyone vegan is going to take a great overhaul to remove fossil fuels in the next few decades, or 2030 or something. What a pipe dream. That's a huge, massive paradigm shift. How about it's like, don't feed the cows seeds and grains anymore. Put them outside and make them eat grass. I'm not sure if Klaus Schwab's Great Reset can just figure out the logistics of just moving the cows from here to here and making them eat that instead of that. Looks like a pipe dream.
Eating this byproduct, if that makes sense.
Well, what first came along was the soybean oil. The oil was the first thing that was being extracted. Back in the 50s, up until the 50s, they were taking the leftover industrial waste, piling it up and burning it. But if you look into waste profits, Google that, profit from waste is all industries are pursuing ways to, instead of having to pay to have industrial waste disposed of, to find a way to sell it.
Well, I mean, again, Jeffrey and Ali seem to be nodding yes, in agreement. So that's a good thing.
And that's what the soybean industry did. But no, like I said, I don't feed soybean meal to my animals. I don't feed corn to my animals. I do regenerative grazing practices. So much like I'm pursuing the same plan that Joel Salatin has been doing for probably 16 years now. And with doing that, you're able to sequester carbon from the atmosphere, put it back in the soil where it has been robbed by crop agriculture. Andrew. And that increases soil permeability.
Become addicted like an idiot with nicotine replacement for like a decade. Just want to check how far we are with the time, guys. Let's stop it here. All right. Episode 2 done. God bless. See you in a day or two. We'll do another run.